What will happen to crypto if Donald Trump wins the election? Or what about if Kamala Harris wins? The US election is only a few weeks away, and crypto companies have become the leader in political donations for the first time in history. People are calling this the crypto election. How true is this? Today, let's look at all the data, and I will show you the real impact this election has on the crypto prices. Welcome back to the VirtualBacon channel. My name is Dennis. I'm a crypto angel investor for the past 6 years, and I have invested in over 100 crypto startups. On this channel, I share views on market trends and investing strategy to build wealth in crypto. How close is this election for the predictions? Most crypto natives tend to think that Donald Trump is way ahead in the lead, as according to prediction market, Trump currently sits at 60% chance of being a winner. However, you have to keep in mind that Polymarket can be heavily manipulated, and especially because people that use Polymarket are crypto native enthusiasts, and these people really prefer Donald Trump to win because it fits their own agenda and their own interests. When you look at the general national polls, it does seem like Kamala Harris could be slightly ahead, coming in at just over 2% in the lead. Now, is this really the crypto election people claim to be? Will crypto play a significant role in capturing voters? The answer is no. According to surveys done on the general public, Americans' top policy priority for 2024 that influence people and who they vote for are at the following. By far, the number one most important thing people care about is the economy and the inflation and asset prices. 44% of voters care about the economy the most, and out of that 44%, 24% care about the economy in general, 15% care about the high cost of living or inflation, 3% care about the federal debt, and way less so for the others. Now, in some reports done by crypto companies like Grayscale, they connect this care for inflation with the interest in crypto directly, but I don't think this is correct. In the polls done by Grayscale in partnership with the Harris poll, 26% of people cared the most about inflation for this election. And although we as crypto enthusiasts might say that when you care about inflation, you have to buy Bitcoin because that's anti-inflationary, well, the general public does not seem to think so. You see, this is a question done in the same poll, and it asks, how have inflation and the current economic climate impacted your interest in owning Bitcoin? Now, this is segregated in two groups. We have people who are familiar with crypto and people who are not familiar with crypto. You see, even though people who are familiar with crypto like us think that we should be more interested in Bitcoin and owning Bitcoin when there is high inflation, the other camp, who are people that are not familiar with crypto, they tend to think the exact opposite. This makes sense. Ask your normie friends. When they have high inflation and they have high cost of living, they can't buy everyday stuff. So why would they spend more money to buy Bitcoin, which to their eyes is a speculative asset? This is why out of this basket, when there is high inflation, even way more people are less interested about Bitcoin and owning Bitcoin. So combining this data with the fact that most people seem to care the most about strength in the economy and inflation, this can actually present the opposite case where people care way less about Bitcoin and about owning Bitcoin when you consider the wider audience that are the normies who are not familiar with crypto. I do believe this kind of interest will trend towards the other way. This is my long-term belief. However, just this election and just this year, the data does not tell us the same story. Now, on the other hand, will this election have a major impact on crypto? And the answer is yes. So far, the industry has poured $119 million into elections across 2024. This accounts for nearly half of all corporate political contributions. It's also worth noting that even though crypto fans seem to favor Donald Trump and the Republicans, the crypto industry donors are actually supporting both parties. Protect Progress, which is one of the three main entities doing these political campaign donations, have put over $13.3 million on Democratic campaigns this year. In fact, the crypto super PAC, who has actually donated this $119 million, actually have spent more money trying to influence the Democrats versus the Republicans. This exposes the real agenda of crypto companies and their donations towards these election campaigns. Out of the $200 million that the crypto super PAC has raised, more than 53% of those money came from Coinbase and Ripple. Other large donors include Andreessen Horowitz and the Winklevoss twins. These guys all have the shared interest of pushing crypto regulation forward instead of supporting any single candidate or party. And this is why you see so many different politicians coming out this year and becoming vocally pro-crypto from both parties. This is because by doing so, you get a large amount of endorsement from the crypto super PAC so you can run ads and support your campaign. But this doesn't mean one candidate or one party over the other is especially going to be pro-crypto in their actual policy. They're just saying so in order to get more money to help their campaign. This is the big difference between calling this a crypto election for the people versus an election that is heavily driven by crypto money. The people really don't care which candidate actually likes crypto or not, but these candidates have to say so because the money speaks for itself. The only statement that Kamala Harris has publicly said is that she will partner together to invest in America's competitiveness, to invest in America's future by encouraging innovative technologies like AI and digital assets. This sounds very vague and could easily be dismissed as pre-election false flattery. There's no promise or action plan here. More recently, Kamala Harris came out with a campaign to deliver for Black men. In this agenda, she outlined that she will be supporting a regulatory framework for cryptocurrency and other digital assets. But it had to be added that so Black men who invest in and own these assets are protected. Why is it so specific? Her whole campaign towards crypto just seems very vague to me. Although Kamala Harris does not have a direct history with crypto or with any announcements or any involvements, her campaign team and also her previous administration does have history with crypto. Remember, Kamala Harris came into office as the VP at the start of 2021, and the two biggest anti-crypto officials in the US were both appointed by the same administration by Joe Biden. So Gary Gensler was nominated by Joe Biden to become the SEC chair starting from February 2021. Similarly, the Secretary of Treasury Janet Yellen was also nominated by Joe Biden right after he came into presidency in 2020, and Janet Yellen officially confirmed the role in January 2021. Now, recently, Kamala Harris's team has been coming out and saying they will replace the SEC chair Gary Gensler with someone else, but this will be harder to do because she was part of the Biden administration, which appointed both Gensler and Yellen in 2021. It's possible, but compared to the Trump administration, this is just less likely. Kamala Harris's advisor team does have two members who have been publicly against crypto before, especially against pro-crypto bills. One of Harris's core team members is Bharat Ramamurthy, and he is widely considered the White House's top critic against crypto. Ramamurthy used to work directly under Senator Elizabeth Warren, who is another critic for crypto. And during one of the key legislation debates around the Stablecoin Act in 2023, Ramamurthy was the White House representative who came in and intervened in this debate to block the Stablecoins Act from moving forward. This is the act we're talking about called the Clarity for Payment Stablecoins Act. And to this day, it still hasn't been voted through the US House Committee on Financial Services. We'll talk more about crypto bills just in a bit. Now, you have to keep in mind, although these bills can be debated on and voted on in the Congress, the presidents do not actually have the power to block any of these bills. Officially, they have this veto power, but based on the statistics, it's very, very unlikely for them to go through with it. Since 1789, there had been over 30,000 different statutes that have been passed in the US legislation. This translates to about 500 different laws being passed on average over each presidential candidacy for 4 years. Now, out of each of these 4 years, how many times have the president actually vetoed the bill? Well, let's take a look. Over the last 20 years since George Bush and Barack Obama, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, on average, each president have vetoed only 11 bills out of 500 passed. This equates to only 2% chance for a president to actually step in and oppose Congress and block a bill. This is because the Congress also has the final ability to override the executive veto from the president by voting again, and as long as 2/3 of the Congress actually agree for this override, the president then gets overwritten and the veto doesn't count anymore and the law still passes. This is why the president doesn't actually have final say on these laws. Instead, the Congress has the final say. That is why you don't really have to worry about any single president being super bullish or super bearish on crypto. They don't have the power to actually put a law through. They can influence what the Congress does, but at the end of the day, it's still a voting process that takes quite a long time. Okay, having said all of this, would the crypto prices actually go up or down if Kamala Harris gets elected? Well, in the short term, we could expect prices to go down a little bit simply because people don't really understand the situation and they really believe Kamala Harris is completely against crypto, whereas Donald Trump is completely for crypto. But I do believe prices should rebound quickly right after this gets priced in after the elections. The real deciding factor is not which candidate actually wins, but the actual legislations which gets implemented. Okay, on the other hand, what if Donald Trump wins the election? Well, we have to look back in history and you will start to see that Donald Trump has not always been this pro-crypto, super friendly president. In fact, during his presidency in 2019, Donald Trump has publicly come out and said that he is not a fan of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. He doesn't think they are money and their value are highly volatile and based on thin air. In summer of 2021, Donald Trump also called Bitcoin a scam against the dollar. But guess what? Right after he left office in 2022, he did a full 180 and actually dropped his own NFT trading cards. And you remember a lot of media were hating on him for doing so and they were calling it a scam. But guess what? These NFT trading cards actually were not a bad investment. Each card was being sold for $100 and throughout their lifetime, their floor price has never gone below $100. So everyone that got into these cards at least made profit. And even right after its launch, it went as high as 7x. More recently, Donald Trump also launched his own DeFi project called World Liberty Financial. And there is, in fact, a ICO token sale that he is doing with his 3 sons. Pretty crazy stuff. This is coming from his official Twitter account with an official video, and it has been verified that it is him. Now, I don't recommend anyone to go buy this. This is not even transferable according to the white paper, and we don't know if these coins will actually have any value. But what I think is interesting is that Donald Trump is willing to come out and stick his neck out and put his brand and his name on 2 different crypto projects now, one in NFT and another in DeFi. This gives him real skin in the game and it makes it much harder for him to do another 180 and come out again and say that crypto is a scam and he wants to ban all crypto. Because if he does that, he is essentially hurting his own business and his own family brands. What is Donald Trump actually saying about crypto now, and what are his policies for crypto? During his speech in the 2024 Bitcoin conference, here are the things he has said. He will fire Gary Gensler and appoint a new SEC chairman on day 1. He will create a US government strategic national Bitcoin stockpile, keyword here stockpile, not reserve. He promises to keep 100% of the Bitcoin that the US government owns. These are the Bitcoin that the US government has seized through sanctions and through criminal crackdowns. He says Bitcoin is going to moon and you should never sell Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is going to go up a lot and surpass the market cap of gold. He will free Ross Ulbricht, who is the founder of Silk Road. He promises there will never be a CBDC. And he says some more vague promises like the US will be the crypto capital of the planet. Out of this list of policies, which ones can he actually enforce and which ones will actually require Congress and which ones are not even that realistic? First of all, firing Gary Gensler and appointing a new SEC chairman, this is totally possible and much more likely for him to do than for Harris. Remember, Donald Trump was the one who appointed Hester Peirce, the crypto mom, who is another SEC commissioner back in 2018. And she is the most pro-crypto commissioner in the SEC. Next, in order for Donald Trump to create a Bitcoin stockpile, whatever that means, this is going to be very hard to do. I think it's much more likely that the US government just doesn't sell their current Bitcoin holdings, but they can't come out and say that they're going to start buying Bitcoin for strategic reserve. That is a big statement, and it's like declaring a new gold standard. This kind of stuff takes generations to develop. However, However, just keeping all of the Bitcoins that they currently own is not that difficult because all of these Bitcoin came from seizures and came from criminal crackdowns. So they can keep those Bitcoin and just have the option to stay in those Bitcoin holdings and potentially have a reserve down the line. But if they come out and say they will be purchasing Bitcoin, then that's a much bigger endorsement. Now, during this year's Bitcoin 2024 conference, there had been another crazy bill proposed by US Senator Cynthia Lummis, which says there will be a Bitcoin purchase program of up to 200,000 Bitcoin per year over a 5-year period. Even though she came out right after Donald Trump to propose this bill, it's pretty crazy to think that this will get passed. I really don't think this will go through. This is way too big of a jump from where we are currently at, where we don't have even any regulations. For the other policies, he can easily free the Silk Road founders' prison sentence. That's not a big deal, to be honest, although this will be a big boost in crypto investor morals. The CBDC stance is very interesting. This could be a big commitment that actually is different between the two candidates. As far as I know, Kamala Harris hasn't had a stance on CBDCs, so this could be a big deal. His promises on Bitcoin and crypto innovation is just as vague as Harris's promises. Endorsing innovative technologies like AI and digital assets coming from Harris sounds the exact same as making US the crypto capital of the planet. It's the exact same thing. It's very vague and it doesn't mean anything. Last but not least, Donald Trump says he pledges to the Bitcoin community that the day he takes oath of office, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's anti-crypto crusade will be over. This is a very glorified and non-clear way to say that there will be better regulations. Which kind of regulation has Donald Trump actually come out and supported? There is one that I actually found, which is going back to May 2024 during his speech. Donald Trump has said that he will support your right to self-custody. This is important because the right to self-custody is a real bill that's currently being voted on in the US House. This is called the Keep Your Coins Act. Now, this bill hasn't moved since December 2023. Out of the 4 main bills, which we'll cover in a bit, this is actually the slowest moving one so far. But if you are a big DeFi fan and if you really value self-custody, this could be one of the only promises that Donald Trump will try to put through. So in summary, Trump is obviously more crypto friendly. He does show a history of commentary on crypto, and at least he has been paying attention to the crypto industry since 2019. Then he slowly warmed up to it, and then he started doing his own NFTs and accepted crypto donations, and finally he's launching his own DeFi platform. He is not afraid to put his name and his family brand on crypto-related products, which makes a big difference versus Kamala Harris. Harris can always turn back on crypto if needed, but it's much harder for Donald Trump to do so. The only real effort that he has put forward as a real policy and legislation is this Self-Custody Act, which I can get behind. But this isn't the same act that targets stablecoins or the SEC or regulations. The real legislation in the US House that truly matters is this one called the F.I.T for 21st Century Act. I have covered these 3 bills in this video before in August of last year when they first passed the US House Committee on Financial Services, which is where these bills are discussed the most. You should go ahead and check this video out for this specific legislation. In short, the bill we really care about is the F.I.T for 21st Century Act. This is the legislation which defines the responsibilities between various US agencies, including the CFTC and the SEC, for which type of crypto asset tradings and dealings they have regulation over. This is the real bill that will stop the SEC from pursuing all of these crypto assets from being potential securities and pursuing all the crypto exchanges for offering unregistered securities. Now, what's really cool is that this bill has been passed by the full US House through a vote in May of this year. This means it's halfway there through the voting process, and now it moves on to the Senate. And if it can pass the Senate, it then then goes to the president for a final check, and this is when the president might veto it, but like we have said before, very rarely does it get rejected then. This is the real bill we care about, and as far as I know, neither Kamala Harris or Donald Trump have come out and expressed any support or opposition on this bill. This bill also passed with bipartisan support, meaning equal amounts of people in Democrats and in the Republicans have voted for this bill through together. This means you don't need to hope for either Republicans or Democrats to come into party because it doesn't matter. It requires both parties to work together in order to push this legislation forward. So with all that being said, would prices go up or down if Donald Trump gets elected? Well, undoubtedly, people believe Donald Trump is better for crypto and for Bitcoin. So in the short term, the crypto audience will pump the price up and they will get very excited if Donald Trump gets elected. However, I would say just don't FOMO too hard thinking he's going to implement all the grand promises that he has made. And especially when it comes to these bills, it takes real voting and it takes multiple years for them to get debated on, discussed before they finally go to the president for just a signature. Smaller initiatives like an NFT collection, a DeFi platform coming from the Trump family are easy to do, and it shows that he likes crypto personally. But that is very different from putting through real policy in the US government. Okay, finally, some thoughts and strategies around the election times. Should we be buying anything before the elections or waiting until after? People say all the time one party is better than the other for the stock market and for crypto, but the data actually shows this is not the case. The only election outcomes with significant change in market performance 3 months after on the S&P comes in these three scenarios. If the president is a Democrat and the Congress is either controlled by the Republicans or in a split divide, then the S&P usually performs positively over a 3-month period after. Conversely, if the president is a Republican but the Congress is completely controlled by the Democrats, then there is a negative return over the 3 months after in the S&P. We see a similar performance in this analysis done by Fidelity. Most of the time, the bullish cases, whether there is a Democratic president or a Republican president, the average return for the S&P is for the most part all good, except for this specific case where you have a Republican president but a Democrat-controlled Congress. So that is if Donald Trump comes into power as the president, but the Congress votes through the Democrats. So far, both the House and the Senate is coming through a split. This is something you do need to watch out for. In case this rare occurrence actually happens, then there is a statistical significance that the S&P will perform negatively over the following 3 months. But this is a much smaller chance. For the most part, the market has no significance no matter which party gets elected. What people really care about are two things. Number one is the economy. Out of all of the negative performances in the S&P post-election, every single one of them has correlated with the recession. This is a much better indicator, and this is what you really need to watch. The other significant metric is that there is usually more volatility leading up to the elections. Here are the average volatility in the VIX over the months of July to November leading up to election years. As you can see, as we get closer to the election day, more and more volatility comes in, which is negatively correlated with the stock market returns. Here is another important metric. This is the trading volume around the election week, and especially right after the election, the 7 to 10 days after, there is usually a huge number of trading and a huge number of volatility. This is another reason for us to stay cautious and don't overtrade around this event. Even more specific to the 2024 election is that this presidential election is very close. Like we covered in the beginning, it's currently about a 50-50 split depending on which polls you look at. And here is the average volatility in presidential election years separated by the election polls. Whether it's a close election or a not close election actually makes a big difference. You see, markets care much more about uncertainty than the actual results. When you have a not close election or a landslide election, people don't have a lot to worry about. They don't have to guess, which means there is usually a lot less volatility in the election years when the final presidency is very clear. However, in a close split election year like we have this time, the volatility tends to get way higher, and especially in the months of October and November around the election dates. Here's another chart that maps the average S&P 500 returns since 1960 around election years. And you see, leading up to the pre-election, even if market rallies, when you have a close election, such as these marked in red, you see in September, October, markets on average tend to go down a bit, and they tend to have a much easier time to recover starting from November, December. That is why we have to be careful around October and November time. Even if you're very bullish on crypto and on the market overall, you have a much better chance to get in at a much better time that is not choppy after the elections finish. You also have the next FOMC meetings coming right after the election dates on November 6th and November 7th. This is when the real economic data and the US Fed liquidity data will come out. Whether we have increasing or decreasing unemployment, which signals a good or bad economy, and whether the US Federal Reserve will start injecting liquidity and start purchasing assets again, a lot could be announced during this FOMC meeting. So again, there will be a lot of volatility coming from the elections, and a lot of people will be missing these key economic data points. That is why I really don't recommend people to speculate and overtrade going into the elections. The only standout crypto I would consider buying are the political meme coins if you are into that kind of thing. Like I covered before, they act as prediction markets on who wins the elections. Over this next 2 weeks, both Trump-related and Harris-related meme coins should see a lot more trading volume as people bet on both sides. Just keep in mind, this narrative around political meme coins and prediction markets as a whole will all come crashing down after the elections. So don't hold on to these positions for long. Sell them before the event happens. Other than that, I'll continue to accumulate my portfolio positions, which you can check out in my full portfolio video linked in the description. Okay, in summary, here's the takeaway I want to give you guys. Don't FOMO if Donald Trump wins the election, and don't panic if Kamala Harris wins. Either president cannot push or deny any specific crypto bills, nor will they really care. Donald Trump has come out and said that he will make an effort to push for self-custody, while Kamala Harris hasn't come out and said anything about any specific bills. However, neither of them have said anything about the real bill that matters for the SEC, which is the Fit for 21st Century Act. Remember, most of the talk around crypto in their campaigns are driven by the crypto companies' donations, and all of that funding will end after the elections. Trump is slightly more pro-crypto than Harris because he has a history of using crypto to raise money, to create NFTs and create DeFi products. But this is hugely different coming from a family crypto business versus pushing a whole nation to adopt crypto. Kamala Harris also has a history with Gary Gensler and Janet Yellen, and she also has an advisor that was against a crypto bill. But nonetheless, these can all change. It just makes her less likely to fire Gary Gensler, but she could also easily do so if she really wants to. So with all that said, I don't think it's smart to heavily speculate on the election event. We know there is large volatility during the election weeks, and markets usually don't perform well until after the elections are over and the uncertainty stops. This is especially true when the election polls are very close during a split decision. Combined with the fact that the next FOMC in November is right after the elections and will be super crucial, this means the markets will be much easier until after November 5, 6, and 7th when all these events are over. That's why I am taking things slow until after the elections. Even though I am super bullish for the next year, all the data shows it's just a better idea to invest and trade more heavily after the elections are finished. And that's what I'll be doing. Okay, that's it for this video. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe to the channel as I'll be dropping my full coverage on the next FOMC meetings. I really believe this will be the core catalyst which kicks off the full crypto bull run, and you definitely don't want to miss those content. You should also follow me on X at VirtualBacon0x. This is where I drop quick alpha before I make them into in-depth videos. And lastly, join my VIP trading community called The Coiners. You can go to thecoiners.io to sign up, and it's completely free. You just have to sign up to one of our exchange partners. In here, we have chats, we have trade signals coming from myself and 5 other analysts, and we have mentorship section where you can ask any question, and we have weekly live streams coming from myself and all the analysts diving into the market with real trade setups week after week. We take a very hands-on approach, and if you are a real crypto trader and an expert and you trade a lot of volume and you really want to find the real alpha, you can join the community and you can talk to me directly. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.